guys, welcome to another episode of Crisp, the podcast. I am Matthew Farumbi and I'm here with my dad.
Sonny Farumbi, and I say welcome.
Yeah, and as of now, Twitter officially has rebranded to X. So as of the last couple days, I know we talked about that last episode, but I think the last app update changed everything from Twitter to X. So the
There's an app update now?
Yeah, so the app icon is no longer Twitter. The icon like in the app, within the app, is now X as well.
That's interesting. I saw in the news a couple of days ago that in their building, maybe their headquarters building in San Francisco, they tried to install a giant X at the top of the building, and then the city stopped them for not having the permit or something.
Oh, I saw something about that. I think today or yesterday. Yeah. I didn't read the details. I just heard that they were trying to install it, or they had installed it. They had to take it down or something like that.
Yeah, they had to take it down. I'm surprised that they didn't think that they needed a city permit to do something like that.
It's just all the changes. It seems like it hasn't been very well planned out.
Yeah, it's not thought out at all. So, it doesn't look like it.
Even this rebranding, because Twitter is like a digital company, so they don't sell any physical products. So the branding is like basically all they have. So the fact that they're changing is almost like, I don't know, for me, it's more of a detriment than anything. So
well, I think, unless I'm forgetting this, one of the rationale is maybe the Twitter brand or the Twitter name is associated with something some people do not like, so it's trying to make the change. But I don't know if changing the name or the rebranding is actually going to change any perception about it. Most people who use Twitter knows exactly what it is, and changing them to X, Y, or Z. I don't know if it's going to change any of those perceptions. So
then I also heard that since it's been changed, that 4 different entities have been trying to trademark Twitter now. So since it's no longer owned by, I don't know who owned it, I guess Elon or whichever parent company he owns that technically bought Twitter. They said that other companies have been trying to buy that name now.
Around by the Twitter name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's still like a well-known thing. So even if you own it, you could still turn it into something that's your
I don't know if it will be beneficial to sell it, though, because anyone who buys it, they can easily use the existing known brand of Twitter to kind of launch pad whatever it is they're trying to do.
I don't know if they're selling it. I don't know exactly how it works, because they said that since they rebranded, that people have tried to trademark it. So it's because of the rebrand that people have been
interesting
trying to do that.
Well, that's the ongoing saga of the company formerly known as Twitter, now X, per Elon Musk.
But it's funny because even in the app still, it says if you try to type a tweet, it still says tweet. I think they said they're going to change it to post or something like that instead of tweet, but I don't know.
I wonder it will be X'd or something.
Yeah.
It has to be something. All right,
so I'm seeing there's an article here. A teacher sparks debate after refusing to give up time and help her student catch up after the parents took them on an unauthorized vacation.
Yeah, I think it was a story in the news about parents. No, a couple of parents one set of parents who withdrew their kids out of school and took them on a summer vacation without telling the school. Which is okay. I think parents can do whatever they want with their kids, but then when they came back, they are insisting that the teacher now help the kids to catch them up on the things they missed while they were on vacation, and they were insisting that it's the responsibility of the teachers to do that. That was surprising to me. So I don't know. It's one of the comments I saw, they say it takes entitlement to a very 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 high level, that if you are the one who took your kids out without even telling the teacher, without asking permission or anything,
Right.
and they say yes, it's your right as a parent to do that, but then you cannot now come back and ask the teacher or tell the teacher that it's their responsibility to help your child catch up on the kind of things.
And
they
usually,
need.
I feel like if they had told the teacher, they could have given them assignments or something to take home.
I'm sure they could have
so
done
they
that.
could at least stay up to date
Yes.
with what's going on. Even though, I mean, if they're on vacation, they're not going to want to do school. But
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's the kind of things I hear about us, especially in this country, that give me a pause sometimes. When I hear some things in the news, sometimes it almost looks like it's made up, because it doesn't seem to me that any reasonable, rational thinking person would do something like that. But hey, it's the United States of America. Everything goes, and it's amazing. It's amazing, and when I hear something like that, it actually reminds me about sometimes how the rest of the world look at us, because of some of the things we believe that we have the right to, or we have the right to do, talking about liberty and freedom and things like that. And I think some of the ridiculous extent we take those claims of liberty and freedom just it makes us look ridiculous
yeah, I
to
think
the rest of the world.
this just makes people think Americans are even more entitled. But was this in the U.S. or was this somewhere else?
I'm not sure. I think it's in the United States.
Okay.
I believe it
Because it
is.
said someone was posting to a UK-based forum, so I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's
At least that's just what I saw here. I haven't read through it thoroughly. So.
okay. Well, maybe the United Kingdom is following the steps of its former colony or something. I don't know.
Right.
It's possible. Yeah. Well, what's the main thing we want to talk about today?
Yeah, so it looks like the decision for the Supreme Court to remove affirmative action consideration for college admissions. I know that was a big thing that came up somewhat recently.
Yeah, a couple of months ago. What was your thought about that actually when that happened? What was your thoughts about maybe affirmative action in general and some of the things that people were saying about it?
I heard about it, but I haven't looked into it in detail, so I don't know if there's any minor details that I would have missed. But I would think, because this is like the not considering like race and other stuff for admissions, right? That goes along to the same.
Well, affirmative action says, it doesn't say that like that, but the concept of affirmative action is that it's an opportunity to give underrepresented groups like women and people of color, give them a lot more opportunities where they were not given opportunities before, in so many areas. So whether it's in employment or in college admissions, it's in so many areas.
Right.
So, but I think the case that brought this up to the Supreme Court has to do with college admissions.
Right.
It looks like a group of people sued some of the Ivy League, I think. It started with the Ivy League. I think Harvard is one of them. I'm not sure of the other ones. And they took them to court that it's some kind of reverse discrimination against whites.
Oh, that's what started it? That it's...
Yeah, that's how this eventually got to the Supreme Court. Then the Supreme Court eventually now said it's... I think they said something about it's unconstitutional or something like that because some kind of discrimination.
Huh, that's funny. Yeah, I don't really understand what the point of removing it. I guess they say it's reverse discrimination, but when you think of even this, like for blacks specifically, the reasons a lot of them might not be able to go to college might be like the neighborhoods they live in, their family, the people in their family who have been to college, and that based on being this historic like stuff of America with slavery and where people had to move. Even for blacks specifically, I think not considering that is I don't want to say like racist, but is like the reason a lot of them are not able to go to college is based on like what happened previously.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it is systemic policies.
Exactly.
The policies that are created that those systemic what we call systemic racism that is causing discrimination. And we're right. But here's the funny thing about this: it's not even about that. I don't think because I've tried to go through this case very thoroughly.
yeah, and like I said, I haven't looked at the details of it.
It's
So
not.
I just
It's
heard
not
the
even
headline.
about that. It's about admission to these upper class colleges, the Ivy League, like Harvard, Stanford, and Penn, and some of those ones that are so exclusive that they only admit. I think from what I heard, most of them only admit between 4 and 8% of the students who actually apply to them.
Right.
So it's actually it looks like that. I was even reading an article that says, those colleges, Harvard, Cornell, Princeton, those Ivy League, the admission rate is like in single digits, 4 to 8% of those who apply to them. Then they said also there are other colleges that will also the admission rate is between maybe 10 and 20%. But they said that majority of colleges, more than 75% of colleges in the United States, actually have higher admission rates. Many of them admit 60-something, 70-something percent of the students who apply to them. But I think this case came about because of admission policies by these Ivy League colleges. That some people feel that they are being excluded. They are not able to get admission to Harvard, for example.
Oh, because they're trying to fulfill like
because they are trying. They have quota for black students. So some people believe that they did not get in.
That's taken away from.
It's taken away from them. But here's the funny thing that I found out as I researched this. Most of those colleges just stick with Harvard. Harvard is one of the main ones that was sued. We should stick with Harvard. They are not admitting students of color who are not qualified. That's the funny thing.
Right, yeah.
They are not just saying, okay, we are giving a quota of this to minorities or students of color or women who are less qualified than the other white students.
Okay.
That's not what's actually going on. I think from what I read, what I found out, affirmative action forces them to look at these underrepresented groups that they've historically never looked at before.
Okay, yeah.
So they will look at it and find, in fact, most of the time is the cream of the crop amongst the minorities that end up getting admission to Harvard and some of these Ivy League colleges. So it's not like they are not as qualified. It's really that these are the groups that many of these colleges are most likely because of some of those systemic racism things we've talked about before from centuries ago. They were never looked at. They never even considered them at all. They don't look at those groups. So affirmative action is making them
more
consider
inclusive.
them.
Yeah.
Consider them, to look at them. And I found out, at least from my little research that I've done, I found out that most of the people who are admitted, they actually qualify. They have very high, they graduate at the top of their classes. They have very high SAT, ACT scores. So it's not like they are lowering the standard of admission.
Right.
They are not lowering the standard of admission, but they are.
It's just almost just like widening who's allowed to apply in a sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who they are considering.
Yes.
But the funny thing is that you have people who felt, especially white students who felt that they should have been given admission, and they were not given admission. And that's the funny thing about affirmative action. In fact, until I started looking at it, I didn't understand it very well because a lot of people, and I used to be one of those that thought, well, they are just trying uh, to give people who may not be that qualified.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
It's
was the
trying to
thinking.
almost, like you said, fulfill a quota, and regardless of qualifications.
Exactly, exactly. What I found out that's really not the case. The funny thing, I don't know if I've told you this before, was that the first time I heard of affirmative action was just before actually we came to the United States. When when just before we came, as I don't know if we've discussed it on this forum already. Before we left Nigeria to come here, about a month or so before I came, I actually got an email. I was looking for a job. I was working in Nigeria as an engineer, and I was looking for opportunities online. And one day I just got to work that day, and I found an email from Siemens. Siemens is a German company, and they said, no, somebody forwarded your resume to us, and we see that you work in the brewery, you have experience in this area. Will you consider moving to the United States? They were actually going to file for me to move.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I responded to them. I said, well, you don't need to file for me. I'm already on my way. I'm just waiting for my quit notice to finish here. I'm about a month out into that. And then that was how the process started. They faxed, in those days, fax. They faxed me application form, which I filled and sent back. And I remember on the form it says, "Would you like to be considered for employment under the affirmative action something?" I didn't know. No, I didn't understand. I didn't know what that was. And for me, I just thought, okay, if they're asking that question, that means you probably increase my likelihood of being employed. I checked it.
Yeah.
I checked. I didn't know what it was. I checked it, and I don't know whether that factored into the decision or not. In fact, I'm not sure if it did. But what I remember was that the team that Siemens was putting together then in St. Louis to work on projects for Anheuser-Busch, a team of about, I think at the beginning, about maybe 10, 12 engineers. More than half of us came from different places around the world.
And it makes it better that Siemens is an international company.
Yeah, it's a global company. It's in almost every country of the world. So I remember that most of us came. I was the only black person in the team at the time. We had people from Venezuela, we have people from Spain, we have someone from Kosovo, and different levels. All of us were experienced engineers who had worked in breweries around the world before that they came and put together.
Right.
I do not think, whether we were considered under affirmative action or not, I do not think the Siemens would try, or any employer for that matter, would try to hire people that they know are not qualified to do the job.
Right.
Because it's their business on the line.
And it's like, yeah, not only, and it just costs money to hire and fire too. So if it doesn't work out, it's like going to cost them even more to find someone else.
To replace people. So, but here's the funny thing. Like I said, I checked that affirmative action box on that form, not knowing exactly what it was. I just thought, okay, if it improved my chances of getting a job in a new country I've never even been to at the time, why not? When I came and I began to hear more about affirmative action, like I said, the feeling or the impression that most people have is that it's people who are not as qualified. So anytime I hear that, I actually didn't like the idea that I checked that box first, because I was thinking, no, wait a minute. I believe I'm as qualified as anybody else, but hey, what are you going to do? But in the last year or so, as I began to learn more because of this case, learn more about affirmative action, I realized that it has nothing to do with whether you are qualified, whether you are less qualified or something. It's just the employers, or in this case, in the case of the lawsuit, the colleges widening their search.
Right.
Widening their search and making sure they're including including people. Because if you think about it, when when slavery was abolished, we just celebrate Juneteenth, what, a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
When that was abolished, now they said, the story was they didn't get to Texas for about 2 years. People were still enslaved. So even after that, when the news got to people in Texas, we have this Jim Crow era where virtually everything was criminalized and they were throwing blacks in jail and getting cheap labor out of them. So there were a lot of laws and policies that were made that tried to keep even those who used to be slaves who are now free.
Yeah,
That likes to keep them down.
segregation.
Segregation, all kind of things that try to keep them down. You are not able to go somewhere. You're not able to eat in some restaurants. Or if you do, you have to sit in a particular place. We remember the story of Rosa Parks. You have to sit in the back of the bus, and she refused to give up her seat. Things like that. They have water fountains. You see the white and the colored water fountains, different water. All those kind of segregation and things like that.
I think it's always funny how they said it was separate but equal, but it was never equal.
Yeah, it's funny. So all of those things, and people don't think about that. All of those things then later came redlining, where they will redline some districts and some places where the whites will not live there. It's only for the blacks or the minorities and things like that.
That's how a lot of highways are designed to avoid certain places.
To avoid certain areas. So that's why people who are talking about, who said there is no systemic racism and things like that, I think they have not just done a lot of study or research into this. All of these things are there. So if all of those things were happening then, what do you think was happening with employers? Some employers will know it doesn't matter once it's the color of your skin, they won't hire you. It doesn't matter how qualified you are. So it's still there, even today, in the year of our Lord 2023, you still find some people. I'm not saying it's still widespread, but this thing is in the hearts of people. It's in the hearts of people, and you have people, whether they realize it or not, there is unconscious bias in most of us, and some of those are towards people of color for some people. Right. So you see those discriminatory tendencies. So in employment, it was happening in colleges, college admissions, definitely. Definitely, it was happening where they will not even think of.
You wouldn't even be considered.
Yeah, you will not even be considered when they see you in there. So those are the kind of things, and I think when I believe this started from what I read in 1961. It was JFK, President John Kennedy at the time, who whether it was a law or executive action or something like that, that's where the term affirmative action just came about. Okay. Is to affirm, at least from my understanding, I think that's the way I understood it, is to affirm that these minorities and underrepresented groups also, to affirm them, kind of. I think that's where the affirmative comes from. Right. To affirm them that they are as qualified, they should be looked at. So it's not about lowering standards. It's about widening the scope and taking a look at them so that they will be able to be considered, not because you are lowering their standards, but just because they are smart or even smarter than some of the people you are admitting. But because you are not looking at them, you don't know that they exist. Right. But a lot of people are not understanding that. They think when they when people are admitted or given employment because of affirmative action, that means that they are taking their spot. Right. No, they are not taking your spot. They are just probably more qualified than you and
or just as qualified, but they're being included now, so it lessens your chances.
Yeah. So that's one of the funny things that I
think it's just people are just selfish, because it's like if they don't get what they want, they're like, well, we need to shorten the amount of people that can be even considered for something like this. So that's why, like you said, it's got brought up in the first place, because they feel that it's being taken away from them. So it's like, well, don't include them, or don't include, don't consider race at all, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing though, actually, from what I read, it doesn't look like. It doesn't look like from the decision of the Supreme Court. It doesn't look like they actually completely removed it. Well, it was. I'm trying to remember what the term they use. They say it's unlawful to consider race, but they are not completely saying don't do it. Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the whatever executive action that the affirmative action created is what they are trying to do away with. They are not saying colleges should not use whatever criteria they want to use to be able to do. Here's another funny thing, which people are not talking about, still about college admissions. There is this, I heard about many of those Ivy Leagues colleges, or many colleges, they have this, what we call legacy admissions. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of that. Yeah, for like the Ivy League, people who like went there before.
Yeah,
I
their
didn't know
parents
that
went there.
actually referred to them getting admission though.
Yeah, well, the concept of it is that a lot
They're
of them actually
guaranteed
use it.
admission because
just because your parents went to that school.
Okay.
Your parents went to that school. Your grandparents went to that school, or sometimes maybe because they have endowment. The grandparents now have a lot of money. They are giving money to them or something like that. But apart from that,
I've heard of that with like fraternities and sororities, but that's usually to get like a bid, which is just like to be invited. You automatically get invited, but you still have to go through like pledgeship or whatever thing to even get in. But
but this one is for admission purposes. A lot of maybe I would say many colleges, especially the Ivy League ones, seem to have this legacy admission criteria. So because you are a son or a grandchild of somebody who attended that college, they'll, I don't know if they will just give there's a quota, or you have a higher favorable rating or something like that. Right. But they're having a lot of that. And here's the funny thing. Most of those do not, I don't think, is based on qualification.
Yeah,
I don't think it's based on qualification. Yeah. So, but now we are fighting over affirmative action, which truly, if you look at the spirit of it and the way it's been done by the colleges, they are actually just looking at minorities who are as much or if not better qualified to go in, but because they were not looking at them before, they were not paying attention to them, they never knew that they existed. They are just taking a look at them. So that's kind of interesting that people are not talking about legacy admissions.
Right. Well, that's probably because the people who have the money are the ones being admitted, and they don't want to upset them. So
yeah, of course. And something even tells me, once again, I don't know if this is true or not, because of the legacy admission, I'm thinking because of the tendency that people who are admitted under legacy admissions they may not actually be well qualified, but they were admitted because their fathers or grandparents or mothers went to that school. Those may be the ones who may be left out by using affirmative action, by considering affirmative action, by enlarging the pool of people that they are trying to look at for admission. So it's kind of strange. It's kind of strange, but it is what it is. And I don't know. In like I said, in the year 2023, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that we're discussing something like this.
Yeah, and just me thinking out loud, I guess someone could make the counter argument of saying, well, if they're taking that out of the consideration, doesn't that, in a sense, level the playing field since they're not considering race at all?
Yeah, well, honestly, I would say Affirmative action is actually a more of leveling the playing
Yeah.
field.
Mm-hmm.
It is more leveling playing field
Because it was unbalanced before.
it was unbalanced before.
Yeah.
It's now trying to make sure that, okay, let's look at this group of people that we were not looking at before.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that levels the playing field much more than saying let's not use it. Like I said, I think there are so many colleges who will continue to do that. No,
And I
despite
also
what
wonder,
they-
like, how the deciding factor for things like that. Because when there's so many people who are the top of their class, and they're just sorted by the top, and then even like by region, sometimes it's not always. GPAs can be weighted, unweighted, things like that. Like, how do they even sort things like that? I
Well,
don't.
we are not in college admission, thing, so we don't know what they do. But I will guess this. I will guess.
And I guess they consider extracurriculars too.
Yeah,
or whatever,
yeah.
But,
But apart from that, I will guess, and this is just me guessing, especially if you are looking, I know the issue of diversity is another turning one. People think if you are talking about diversity, you are talking about including blacks and minorities, which is true, but diversity is diversity, is not diversity of skin color or something. It's diversity of thought, diversity of background and things like that. So I think colleges are looking more into diversity. So they want to make sure, like you're saying, even if everybody is ranked high, they are at the top of their classes and things like that, they may look at diversity and say, okay, this one came from here. If they have two that is ranked academically maybe the same, everything, and they already have a few or many from this group,
right.
and then they have now somebody else from that same group and another group that they have not admitted much before.
Right.
They may say, okay, because of diversity, because we want diversity of thought, because we want somebody from a different environment who grew up differently, let's admit this person. Once again, I'm thinking that's one of the decisions that they will make.
And that also goes back into why affirmative action is probably important, because you could have a bunch of people in the same region that think alike that could get admitted, but while the people who are not being considered because they're just not being looked at again, even though they might be from a different place or a different race or things like that.
So those are the things that I think. In fact, some of the colleges, I'm not sure about Harvard. I don't know if they've said anything, but I remember reading something a few weeks ago from the president of Johns Hopkins University that said that we have been. I think he said he's been president of Johns Hopkins for about maybe 10 years, and he said, since I've been there, that the percentage of minorities and students of color has steadily increased because they have focused on it. And he said he has translated to better things. No, he quoted some metrics, translated to better things for the college, for the university. In fact, I remember he also said when he came, he stopped this legacy admission kind of a thing. He said because the legacy admission is a way of perpetuating the same kind of people that have always attended. If you say your grandparents or your parents attended, so we're looking at you more to give you admission, that means they are better qualified people who did not have parents fortunate enough to have attended our college that we're not looking at. And we should be looking at them. So those are the kind of things that I believe that many colleges, I don't think this decision will affect them. Some, it may. I don't know if it will affect them. But the funny thing, like I said at the beginning, is that this lawsuit came about because they were targeting the admission policies of the Ivy League, the small group of colleges that the admission rate is like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8% of those who apply to them. No, they're not giving a lot of people admission. So some people, when they are not admitted, they think it's because of affirmative action.
Right.
Yeah, that they are not. I've even found some people. I've talked to, well, not really talked to them, but I've seen articles and and news item about some people who were admitted to such Ivy League colleges because of affirmative action that said that even many of them, whether it was affirmative action or not, that some that believe it was not because of affirmative action that they believe that no, they were qualified to be in Harvard, for example, that some of the other people will look at them as if they just got in because of affirmative action. And once again, the the definition of affirmative action in the minds of most people is you are less qualified, which in most cases I don't think is the case, because I don't think it's in the interest of the colleges to admit students that they know will not cut it, that they know will not be able to finish, or something like that, or will not do well because it affects their graduating numbers. So,
yeah, I think just both the article and even the changes says something about looking into things further before making a decision or speaking about it. Because I think, again, with how the perception of affirmative action, like we talked about, was and what it actually is, or and versus even the article, the headlines were saying, it just plays an important role in looking into things and doing research before coming until a full conclusion on things. So.
Well, any other thoughts on this topic that you want to talk about?
No, I think we touched on it pretty well. Anything else you wanted to add or conclude with?
Yeah, well, for me, I'm just thinking, just like many other things, it looks like a lot of people are reacting to this purely based on emotions, not really looking at exactly what the real situation is. Like I said, I don't think I fully understood what affirmative action was. No, the perception is that you are lowering standards. But from what I've seen over the last few months that I have studied this, I don't think it's about lowering standards. I think it's about taking a look at a group of people that you would not normally look at. You know, they still meet the standards, whether it's employment standards, whether it's admission standards, college admission standards, they still meet those standards. And I think it it kind of behooves all of us to make sure we do our due diligence to know what's going on instead of reacting emotionally, to articles like this on social media about things. So that's just my thought.
Yeah. Well, guys, this has been another episode of Chris, the podcast. As always, give us a like on YouTube, follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.